All right, Jazz fans, we've just had media day. Training camp has started. The season's right around the corner. Preseason games are coming. Let's have a few predictions of what we think or what I think is going to happen with the Utah Jazz. The Hoops Nerd channel. All right, guys. Like I said, the season's around the corner. We've got the live streams and the post-game shows coming, reaction vids. There's a lot that's about to happen. The quiet time for the NBA is over. Make sure that you like and subscribe if you haven't already. And I would appreciate it. All right, let's talk about the Utah Jazz. There's a few things I wanted to talk about just for fun. I think with the season coming up, it's time to just maybe make a few predictions. A few things I think are going to happen with this team. I think there's a difference between what I want to happen and what actually will happen and what I predict will happen. So let's get started. All right. First prediction for this team. We heard in media day, and we're hearing it in training camp, that the Jazz are really high on Jared Butler. I think the interesting note on this tidbit about Jared Butler is it comes from Justin Zanuck, who talked about it during media day, that he's really high on Jared Butler. The front office is very high on him. My question is Quin Snyder really high on Jared Butler? Because that's the thing that honestly matters most. When the play starts and the games start going, does Quin Snyder love Jared Butler? We now have years of history now with Quin Snyder, and if Quin Snyder loves Jared Butler's going to play. If Quin Snyder does not love Jared Butler, he is not going to play. And so what I think is going to happen is there's going to be pressure for Jared Butler to play with this new Jazz front office. I actually think there's a lot of pressure on Quin Snyder this year, and I think Jared Butler's going to play. Now, the question is, does Jared Butler play as a rotation player, or is he just coming in when Mike Conley sits on back-to-backs? I actually think Jared Butler is going to get regular minutes, and I actually feel like Jared Butler is going to be really good, but Jazz fans do not expect any sort of, all rookie of the year stuff. And I could be wrong on that, but I just don't think Jared Butler is going to play enough to make any sort of big splashes this season in terms of like all rookie honors and things like that. I do think what I think is going to happen is Jared Butler is going to play, and he's going to probably struggle a little bit at the beginning of the year. He did not get any time at Summer League, which I do feel like was just contract related. I don't think it was like when Trey Burke got on the floor and went like 1 for 21 in game one and everyone was like, oh boy, this is not going well. I think it was legit the contract because he was the second round pick and they had to actually negotiate years and things like that. But he's going to be, his first time playing with this team is going to be in training camp. And I think he's going to play, but this is a tough offense to learn with Quin Snyder. It is not very rookie friendly. Even Donovan Mitchell, who, his first year with the Jazz was incredible. It took him a little time. Jared Butler is coming into a team that's a championship contender. And so I think he's just going to get slow minutes, but I think he's going to shoot a really nice percentage from three. He is the perfect complement to Donovan Mitchell and Mike Conley in that backcourt, and he can play off of Jordan Clarkson as well. So he fits perfectly with what they want at that backup point guard position, and it's going to be fun to watch. I really hope he plays more. I hope I'm wrong. I hope Jared Butler comes in and is really, really solid and plays 15 minutes a night, but I think we're looking at a player that's probably playing more like 5 to 10, and those minutes are typically going to come when Mike Conley's resting. So that's the number one. All right. The other prediction I have, there's going to be a trade this year with the Utah Jazz, and I think it's going to be something that surprises us. Trade deadline is going to be interesting for the Jazz. Last year, Utah did not do anything of any sort of importance. They traded for Matt Thomas with a second-round pick, and they also traded away picks to offload bad contracts like Tony Bradley. This year, I think there's going to actually be a more interesting deal that happens. The Jazz this offseason made a trade for Eric Paschall, and I think that was a precursor to something else because they really did not give Golden State anything. And I have a hard time believing that the Golden State Warriors are just giving Eric Paschall for nothing, or maybe they make that trade and that opens up trade talks. My guess is that someone like Joe Ingles or Bojan Bogdanovic gets traded at trade deadline this year. I think that's something that absolutely could happen, especially if the Jazz don't play better or are not at the same level as they were last year. This team has to perform this year. And there were a few things last year that I think helped the Jazz have a better record than maybe they deserved a little bit. I think that because they were so healthy with COVID and did not have anyone sitting out multiple weeks with COVID and things like that, I think that legitimately helped them win a lot of games. But there were a few cracks in the armor last season that Jazz fans maybe, we didn't quite notice until we get into the playoffs and then really struggled. And part of the loss in the playoffs was the injuries, but the fact that the Jazz destroyed the really bad teams in the league, beat the average 500 teams, and then really struggled to beat the good teams in the league was a really bad sign. It was a really bad sign. And if we see that this year, let's say, the Jazz are playing teams that are more healthy and they don't have as good a record at trade deadline as they did last year, I think the Jazz are going to look to make some sort of move. Last year, they get the number 1 seed and they pushed hard for it and they got it. The reward was Derek Favors was worn out, come playoff time, and by the end of the Grizzlies series, he was done. We had multiple injuries. Mike Conley was worn down, and by the second round was just unplayable with his injuries. The hamstring just gave out on him. Donovan Mitchell injured with his ankle, and Joe Ingles was utterly exhausted in the second round and was just almost unplayable by the end. And I think the Jazz this year need to make some sort of move, and I think they're going to make some sort of move. I think Justin Zanuck is coming into this season and does not want to make the same mistake he did last year. Everyone on this channel knows I was pro making a trade last year. I wanted to do something. This team is just 1 year older. Yes, they made some nice offseason acquisitions. Rudy Gay is absolutely an improvement on George Niang. Eric Paschall has some really nice potential, and he improved from year one. He was an all rookie, really nice, cheap addition to the team, and also makes Donovan Mitchell happy, one of his best friends on the team. But when it came to trade deadline last year, when it was obvious there were some chinks in the armor, this Jazz team was old and they needed to do something, and you had players like PJ Tucker who were available. Torrey Craig was available. The Jazz did nothing. And the Jazz do not want to repeat that mistake this year. I think the Jazz are going to see where they're at trade deadline and be aggressive. Because one thing we're noticing with Justin Zanuck, he's aggressive. And he's not afraid to make moves that maybe wouldn't have happened before. Dwayne Wade is out shooting corner threes in training camp with the Jazz. Dwayne Wade is going to be in these front office meetings telling them to go make a move. I can promise you right now, Dwayne Wade is out there trying to get players to come to Utah. By the way, I love what we're seeing from Dwayne Wade with Jazz front office, with the players. He's at training camp right now. He's got players' ear. These guys respect Dwayne Wade, and you know what? Ryan Smith listens to that guy, and his influence absolutely is being felt with this team, and it's a great thing. It's just improving the image of the Jazz amongst players in the league. It's making this team a team that they want to come join. It's fantastic. And I think come trade deadline, Dwayne Wade is going to say, hey, we want to win a championship, and this is what we need to do. Me being Dwayne Wade, having won multiple championships, let's make a move. So what is that trade prediction? I think Moses Moody joins the Utah Jazz at trade deadline. And I think Joe Ingles goes to Golden State. Those rumors about Joe Ingles to Golden State were legit. And that team needs a playmaking wing. Steph Curry is a player that's going to be able to play off of someone like Joe Ingles. And Joe Ingles would be a perfect fit for Golden State. And Utah, having one of the oldest rosters in the NBA, I think they're like the 4th oldest roster, they need to get a little younger. And so if you can go out and get a nice prospect from the Golden State Warriors and avoid having another worn out Joe Ingles playoff run, that's great. This team needs to stay competitive while also finding a way to not be completely gassed come playoff time. Because if you're relying on Mike Conley and Joe Ingles and Bojan Bogdanovic and all these older players to just stay healthy, that's a risk. So I think the Jazz are going to make some sort of move. All right, guys, let's take a moment to talk about manscaped.com. Attention listeners across the galaxy, all the way from Australia to Houston. Do we have a pube problem? If so, our friends at Manscaped have cleared you for takeoff with their 4th generation and brand new Lawnmower 4.0. There it is. There it is. Kick your pubes to the next planet with the Performance Package 4.0. The orbits in your pants will feel like you're in zero gravity when you use the best tools for the job from the leaders in male grooming. Join the 2 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped and get your rocket ready for takeoff by going to manscaped.com for 20% off plus free shipping with the code HoopsNerd20. That's HoopsNerd20, guys. Go do it. Go save yourself $20 to $30. Completely worth it. They got boxers. They got the Lawnmower 4.0. They got cologne. It's great. Look. Whoa. The missus will like it. And also the weed whacker to trim your nose hairs. It's fantastic. Go get it. It's great stuff, guys. I would appreciate it. It helps me out. Get 20% off plus free shipping with the code HoopsNerd20 at manscaped.com. That's 20% off plus free shipping with the code HoopsNerd20 at manscaped.com. For a clean trinity and beyond, your space balls will thank you. All right, guys, I got 2 more predictions, and these are ones I legitimately believe are going to happen, and they are, to me, I personally think it's exciting to think about what is possible with this Jazz team. Like I said, this team is older. They do have nicer fitting pieces, but you know what? This team has a legitimate superstar in Donovan Mitchell, and this guy is going to be incredible this year. My prediction is Donovan Mitchell ups his scoring average again with efficiency, 28 points per game with 40% three-point shooting. If you look at Donovan Mitchell's year-by-year progression, year 1, 20 points per game as a rookie, which, by the way, incredible. Year 2 jumps to 23 points per game. Year 3, 24 points per game. Year 4, 26 points per game. He goes up by 2-point increments every season. I think this is the season he gets to 28. He has a chance to compete for a scoring title. And I think that this is the year that he finally makes All-NBA. Now, I think this is actually something the Jazz are going to design into their offense. This is something I promise you that the front office is talking about and wants to happen. Because guess what? If they can get Donovan Mitchell on All-NBA, that makes him someone who can be eligible for Supermax. The news out there is that the salary cap is going to be bonkers. It's going to be bonkers. And in 3-4 years, when Donovan Mitchell's contract is up, you want this guy on the Jazz. And you know what's going to help keep him on the Jazz? Someone of this caliber? Supermax. Give him that money. Because we know how good he is. And we know that he's already lived up to every penny of the max he's already gotten. And you want to make sure that he is getting everything, every scoring opportunity he can, and being set up to score in the right way to become scoring champion, become All-NBA, and be able to get that Supermax. It's absolutely vital for this Jazz team. And we know that Dwayne Wade has talked about it, and I'm sure the front offices as well. They want to make sure that Donovan Mitchell stays on the Jazz. You know, they do things like bring Eric Paschall over. They let the health trainer go, who, you know, remember game 1, Donovan Mitchell was scheduled to play, and then some health trainer tells him that he can't at the last minute, and we knew that Donovan was pissed about it. Well, that guy is gone. That guy was let go from the team. So they're bringing on his friends to play with him. They are firing the people that you're either in Donovan Mitchell's court or you're not. And if you're not, you're out. You know? So what's the third thing you can do to make sure Donovan Mitchell's happy? Get him his bag, all right? Get him his money. And you know how you do that? You set up an offense that gets him to score. And this is another thing that is on Quin Snyder's to-do list, is make sure that you are getting Donovan Mitchell 28 to 30 points per game, all right? He's the best offensive player on the team. And right now, I actually think he is the best player on the Jazz. His ability to score with efficiency and how it gets better in the playoffs is absolute superstar stuff. Absolutely. This guy is unbelievable. And he's all NBA, and he should be this year. But he's not going to make it if Quin Snyder is not setting him up to score 28 to 30 points per game. He needs those scoring opportunities. And so this Jazz offense needs to not be so much about spreading the ball, and it needs to be about giving Donovan Mitchell the rock, all right? That's what needs to happen. Quin Snyder, I know you're listening to this. I'm sure you subscribe to the channel and love everything I say about you. I'm sure you do. All right, final prediction. What happens with the Jazz this year? Guys, in my heart of hearts, I want so badly for this Jazz team to win it all. You know that I love the Jazz. If you cut me open, it bleeds whatever color the Jazz uniform is that year. Who knows what it's going to be this year? I just don't know if the Jazz can make it to the finals. My prediction, the Utah Jazz make it to the Western Conference Finals, and us Jazz fans, our hearts are broken once again. It's a sad thing, guys. To be a Jazz fan is to know pain. It is to know sadness. It is to know grief. And that's what happens with the Utah Jazz, is they make it to the Western Conference Finals. Donovan Mitchell is incredible once again. But somehow this Jazz team gets figured out like they've been the last few years. One of the things in Jazz Media Day that made me really, really nervous and makes me just scared, quote from Quin Snyder saying he's going to do a 9-man rotation this offseason. Makes me nervous, guys. It makes me nervous if we do the same things we did last year. If this Jazz team, and you know, these things are prophecies, but they can be changed. You know, if Quin Snyder can come in like a Jedi and can say, I will not have this destiny of a playoff loss, he must change his ways. And if he says he's going to do a 9-man rotation during the season, that scares me. That makes me think the destiny of this Jazz team is to lose in the Western Conference Finals, and that might be the ceiling. If this Jazz team goes into this season and says, we're going to develop Jared Butler, we're going to run out lineups with Miaoni. Whether Mike Conley is healthy or not, we need to get Miaoni ready for the playoffs. Because you know what scares me, Jazz fans? You know what scares my shriveled little heart? Is that we are going to have certain players on the bench that should be getting time. You know why? And you know why that scares me? Is because Game 6 against the Los Angeles Clippers, when you're up by 20 at halftime and one of your best wing defenders outside of Royce O'Neal sits the entire game. And why is that? Because he was not prepared during the regular season. And you know what really hurts really hard? You know what digs into your chest like some sort of spike into your chest? Is when you see Miaoni in the Olympics just absolutely dominating in certain big-time moments. You know what would have been nice for the Utah Jazz? Is to have Miaoni in the game 6 against the Los Angeles Clippers. There ain't no other chances. You know? You need Miaoni on the floor. And instead, he sits, and the Jazz give up a 20-point lead, and we all go home and cry. And that's makes me sad. And anyways, so what I want is for this Jazz team to be doing all sorts of lineups. I don't want to see Miaoni on the floor with 1 minute left and the Jazz starters playing too many minutes like they did last year. I want Miaoni on the floor. You know what else I want? I want Udoka Azubuike getting some minutes. You know? If Hassan Whiteside's not doing it, we got to give the younger guys a chance. You know, last season, it was like certain players have consequences for bad play and certain players don't. You know what needs to happen this season for the Utah Jazz and Quin Snyder? Everyone needs to have consequences. If you don't play well, your minutes go down. And other players need to be given those minutes to get better. We can't have situations where we have like a player allowed to play 5-6 games really poorly, cost the Jazz a win or two, and then we decide to make some sort of move. No, be proactive. Use the season as an experiment. We know the Jazz are going to be incredible this year. They're going to be fantastic. A top 3 seed at least. At least. But if they aren't experimenting this season with different lineups, different defenses, allow Rudy Gobert to just sit on the perimeter some games. See what it's like. Figure it out. You know? Look at the tape against the Clippers and say, this is what we could have tried, and practice it during the season so that during the playoffs, when the bullets are flying, you're able to handle it and you're not shell-shocked, you know? Instead, last season, the Jazz do the same thing every single game, same type of defense, same type of offense with little variations. No, try different things. You know what was one of the biggest stories last season for the Milwaukee Bucks? They were renowned before last season for not switching. Last season, they made a point of switching and altering what they did and doing different looks and trying different things. And guess what? They lost more games than they did the season before. They were doing things they weren't used to doing. But guess what happened? Come playoff time, they were ready and they had options and they threw different things on the floor and they won the finals. If the Jazz can follow that Bucks playbook and switch it up and try different things and not just do the same thing every single night because you know it'll win you a lot of games, but you're going into the playoffs with just a one note. If you do that, you're not going to make it past the Western Conference Finals. I hope I'm wrong, but that quote scared me, guys. Saying 9-man rotation makes me really nervous. That makes me really nervous. That's not a huge rotation during the season. I want to see other players play. I want to see Jared Butler getting a lot of minutes. I don't think he's going to get a lot of minutes, like I talked about earlier. I want to see Udoka get time. I want to see extended periods of interesting, different, unique looks and defenses and offenses and all the things. That's what I want to see. If I don't see those things, it's going to be really disappointing. All right, guys, that's all I got. Let's give a shout out to our All-Stars. These are the guys that make it happen for the channel. Let's give a shout out to N1, Anton Warren, Ezekiel Raisibe, my man from down under, JT Buckets Wardell, Austin R. Grant, editor extraordinaire, Eric C., the C stands for champion, Donald Schooley, schooling all of us, DW to CB, Darren Williams to Carlos Boozer. Darren Williams, DW to CB, was on the live chat with the All-Stars. Next time, guys, next month, All-Stars got to come, got to join. Jorge Arrizaga, mi amigo de abajo. Lee Christensen, driving the lane. Ryan Perry, the legend. Justin Ty H. Patrick Akubo, the connoisseur. Robert Hall of Fame, and DW Jazz going all the way. Guys, if you haven't already, like and subscribe to the channel. Let me know, do you want another team to get some predictions? Who are we predicting and who are we talking about? Let me know in the comments. Was I wrong? Was I right? What do you hate about it? What do you like about it? Be nice to me. I will talk to you next time.